All right, let's get on it. World history coming up on the French Revolution. Page 357, and I'm going to try to roll fairly quickly. What I'm going to want you to do is read. Go ahead and plan on reading 357, 358, 359, and 360. I want you to stop before that last section, the Reign of Terror, on page 360. So not too terribly much to read. But if you will, cover that material and make sure you've got it all. Good job on what would you try to do if you lived in a country where you had no rights? Yesterday, very good, no voice. Or day before yesterday, whatever. Yeah, yesterday. I can't keep up. Anyway, bottom of 357. Want to just talk about a couple of things real quick. So they've stormed the Bastille, and the National Constitution Assembly gets together and they pass legislation to get rid of the old regime, and in other words, the swamp, or at least they try to. And from 1789 to 1791, they passed about 2,000 laws, which is impressive. The big thing that they did, and I want you to keep this in mind because feudalism had been around for years in France. They abolished it, abolished feudalism. And the landholders were scared. They were, a lot of them were just giving up their land and moving. They were afraid they were going to be killed. Crazy stuff going on. But they abolished feudalism. That was huge. And in 1789, the Declaration of the Rights of Man, which was huge, and that's a famous document. They drew on different works, including our Declaration of Independence. But they put it, and you'll see the top of 358. You can read along with me if you choose. Top of 358, there in the indented portion. Here were the rights that they thought men possessed as citizens. And you'll see that a lot of these sound familiar. Men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Social distinctions can be based only on public utility. The aim of every political association is the preservation of the natural and imprescriptible rights of man, rights that cannot be taken away. We phrased it inalienable. These rights are liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression, as opposed to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty consists in the power to do anything that does not injure others. So in other words, we're free to do whatever as long as it doesn't hurt anyone. And, probably going a little far, but we use that today. I've used the analogy before. I'm okay if you ride a motorcycle without a helmet, as long as you don't crash through my windshield, which would probably be better if you did. But anyway, if it's not hurting me, it's your liberty. If you don't want to wear a seatbelt, that's fine with me. I've always worn one. I've mentioned this before. But if you don't want to wear one, as long as it's not hurting me, that's the way they looked at liberty. Here's the next one. Law is the expression of the general will. All citizens have the right to take part personally and by their representatives in its formation. It must be the same for all, whether it protects or punishments. So talking about the law. The next part, every individual is presumed innocent until he has been proved guilty. That comes from British law. And we incorporated that in our American laws. And last, no one should be disturbed because of his opinions, even in religion. You think about our amendments, Bill of Rights, freedom of religion. So they incorporated Declaration of the Rights of Man. That is an important thing. King Louis said, I'm not going to go along with that. So as a result, there were mobs. And he didn't go along with any of their 2,000 plus laws that they passed. There were mobs. There was fighting in the streets. There were food shortages. You'll read all about that. And basically the revolution started then. It's not officially declared a revolution yet. But what else do you call it? People are revolting. And your book says this: the people refused to pay the king's tax collectors. And the assembly had not devised a new tax system. Now, you got to think about the Catholic Church owned copious amounts of land. That's where they got their money. A lot of land holdings throughout the world. And so France said, I tell you what, here's how we pay off our national debt. We just confiscate their land. So we take the Catholic Church land and we turn it into money and we pay off our debts. And that's what they did. They possessed or took all the land that the Catholic Church had. And they also passed the Civil Constitution of the Clergy. Civil Constitution of the Clergy. And basically this put the church under the control of the French government. And the church members, the clergy, all had to pledge allegiance to the French government. So that was one of the big things that happened. The next is the king tries to get out of Dodge. King Louis decided, hey, things aren't safe here. I need to get out of France. So he puts on some disguises and he slips out of the palace in June the 20th of 1789. Almost made it, and someone recognized him. Doggone it. And they brought him back. Now, one of the things that your book doesn't have this, but Louis, when he fled from Paris, he left behind a declaration denouncing the Constitution and a group called the Jacobins. And we'll talk about them in just a moment. They brought him back and they suppressed the publication of Louis's declarations, this other group that wanted to maintain the king. Anyway, when they brought him back, they reinstated him as king. But in order to do so, he had to accept the Constitution. So that was an important thing. He had to accept the Constitution. Now, your book, big bold heading, Problems of the Legislative Assembly. In short, they didn't know what they were doing. It would be like a bunch of people. I'll give you an example. There is used to be a local state senator here in Alabama. I interviewed him several times when he was running for state senate. He did not, I'm just being honest. Hope you're not kin to him. He did not know that much. Let me be nice about it. About politics, about government, anything along those lines. And when he got into the state of Alabama Senate, it's been joked that he couldn't even find his way to the bathroom. Of course, he served one term and was voted out. I hope you're not. Good guy, very good guy, likable fellow. Got a great family. But he just didn't know what he was doing. Didn't have a clue. Power, low, 20% battery remaining. Let me click on that. Anyway, so they had no idea what they were doing. They were just kind of spinning around. There were several groups. The Jacobins, they wanted radical changes. Its most prominent leaders, Jean-Paul Marat, Georges-Jacques Danton, and Maximilien de Robespierre. Yeah, French stuff, yeah. Anyway, Paris literally, it says, without breeches, without pants. To achieve their radical goals, the Jacobins often stirred up mobs in the city, especially in Paris. Jacobin rabble-rousers appealed to Paris workers known as the sans-culottes, literally without breeches. Unlike the men of the upper and middle classes, the men of the lower classes did not wear fashionable knee breeches, but full-length trousers. And anyway, the war with Austria and Prussia. France declares war. The Legislative Assembly, backed by the king, declares war on Austria and Prussia. Now, the king is hoping that Austria is going to destroy the Legislative Assembly and its backers during this war. And there were people that even tried to sabotage the war on behalf of the king. They did not send the army supplies, those type of things. Anyway, to make a long story short, the Austrian and Prussian armies were led by Duke of Brunswick. They came up with the Brunswick Manifesto. And it called, listen to this, they invaded France in 1792, but the Brunswick Manifesto called on the French people to rally behind their king and protect him from the leaders of the revolution. And when the people that were tired of the king, the people that were unruly, the people that were ready to revolt, ready for revolution, when they heard this, they said, hey, this whole war is shady. This whole deal is shady. We need to do something about it now. So they elected a new national convention, And they proclaimed 1792 to be year one of the French Republic. Year one of the French Republic. And so they put Louis on trial, Louis XVI. They found him guilty of treason. And they had him guillotined. Had his head cut off. And you'll see a little picture of the beheading of Louis XVI there. It was not a picture, not an actual picture. Looks like a pencil or charcoal drawing, page 360. And you'll see a pretty neat insert, if you'll read that, about the right, the left, and the center. It explains the Jacobins and the Girondins, which is hard to say, but you'll see that. Here's what I want you to do for your assignment real quick. Just read those pages and get that taken care of. Then, in your workbook, which hopefully you carried home, page 159 is the execution of Louis XVI. It's chapter 16, activity 3, page 159 in your book. Now, this is a participation. I want you to try your best to get the correct answers, and I will spot check. But, hey, do your best. You have all the info contained there. This is from the writings of Jean-Louis Henriette Guénet-Campin. Couldn't come up with any more names. And on page 160, you'll see questions. There's the answers if you want to pause it. But anyway, if you will do page 160 and then take a picture of it. I know you have a mobile device of some sort, or you can borrow one. Take a picture of that, submit it, and you're done for the day. We will talk to y'all on Monday, one way or the other, Lord willing.